Hello, good morning to you. Hello and good morning. Excuse me. Hello and good morning to you. It is I, Hannah Ruhama. I am the Kombucha Mama. I'm so grateful you're here with me, feeling my energy as I root down into the earth, bringing forth vibrations and expressions of love. Goddess for Gaia, here to take us higher with this frequency. Hey everybody, hi, it is I, Hannah Ruhama, the Kombucha Mama, mother to mazillions of bacteria around the world. Some might even be living inside of you right now, inside or on. If you have ever had a Kombucha Kamp culture, you have a piece of me with you, my soul, my heart. Today, I am so excited to have a really amazing guest who's joining us. I'm going to bring her on in just a minute. Dipa Chohan, her and her husband, Chauhan-Patel, they have a really amazing institute, Living Proof Institute, and they are just some of my favorite people in the world who are talking about health, who are talking about how we can re-empower ourselves and take back control of how we feel. As you know, we're really passionate about that here at Kombucha Kamp, which is why we love teaching you how to make healthy fermented beverages at home. So grab your glass of kombucha, grab your milk kefir, grab your water kefir. Let's bring on Deepa. Oh man, it's a beautiful rainy day here in LA, as I say. Rain in the desert, always a blessing. Hi, Deepa.
Hi, how are you today? I love your intro.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I am so excited to have you here. I am huge fans of you and your husband. And I'm sorry, did I say his name right? Is it Sachin or Sachin?
Yep. Sachin.
Great. And tell us a little bit about yourself. You guys are based in Canada. Tell us about Living Proof Institute. And of course, I want to hear about what your work is in all of this as well.
Yeah, so my name is Deepa. I am originally trained as a pharmacist and have now switched over to being a functional medicine practitioner and health coach. And I work alongside my husband at the Living Proof Institute, where we really, our tagline is the doctor of the future is the patient, right? We, as you had said, we want to empower people to take ownership and control over their own health and be their own best doctor and live their own best life.
Absolutely, because truth be told, it doesn't matter how many times you describe your symptoms to somebody, the reality is only you can feel what's going on within your body. And I really trust that we have so much innate wisdom that, society, culture, whatever it is, really tries to push out of our frame of reference so that we don't trust the sensations coming from our body. So we don't trust that instinctively we really understand what's going on with ourselves. And so how do you guys help bring people back into alignment with that piece of their being?
So one of the main programs that we run is called our Living Light Reset program. And this program really just helps people establish the foundations. Right? We found that we used to do a lot of functional lab testing and a lot of people really weren't doing the basics, right? So really helping people get more in touch with what they're eating, how they're sleeping, how they're digesting, not just focusing on what they're eating, but how are they eating, right? In what state are they eating? What's their level of stress in their day-to-day lives, right? And really being more in touch with their nervous system and the state of the nervous system in which they're in on a day-to-day basis, right? Because as you probably know, healing can only occur when we're in a parasympathetic state, right? So that's one of the main pillars of the program, is really helping people shift more into that rest and digest parasympathetic state, because that's where all the healing and regeneration and repair occurs. So we teach them all these foundations and basics, and we're able to measure that objectively, because in most of our programs, we give our clients an Oura ring, which helps them measure sympathetic tone and helps them measure whether they're shifting into the right direction, right? Into that parasympathetic state.
This is really exciting stuff because I think you're right. There are so many basics that we simply don't even understand because we aren't taught them at all, right? Because that would then shift us out of seeking, interventions that potentially we don't actually need. And so, what was that transition like? What was your aha moment that helped you transition from that traditional pharmaceutical training, where you're really taught to, I assume, prescribe all of the right drugs for the various symptoms and issues that people have, to wanting to focus on these more foundational building blocks of health?
So I worked at a teaching hospital in downtown Toronto, very famous teaching hospital in downtown Toronto, and I was working in the oncology department. And so when someone is coming into the hospital to be admitted into the oncology unit, usually because of a complication of their chemotherapy, or their cancer is progressing and getting worse and worse. So we're kind of seeing the worst of the worst. And at that time, my husband Sachin was really getting into functional medicine. And so it really piqued my interest because, he was learning about the root cause of chronic disease and symptoms. And, it really helped to shift my paradigm because the conventional model is usually pop and pill type of approach, right? And really a Band-Aid approach, and really not getting to the root cause, right? And when I was working on the oncology unit, the dietitian would be prescribing Ensure shakes, and like the number one ingredient is sugar, right? And it's counterintuitive because we know sugar feeds cancer, right? So really just made me question a lot of the things that I was taught. And, it's lifestyle and nutrition really just gets lip service, right? So even when a client comes in, I've worked in hospital pharmacy, I've worked in retail pharmacy, I've worked in mail order pharmacy. When they would come in, with high blood sugars, right? The doctor says, oh, focus on nutrition, and they don't really say lifestyle, but focus on your nutrition. We'll give you 6 months. If the blood sugar is still high, then you get put on medication, right? But they're not really taught how to do that, right? They may go to a conventional dietitian, which then follows the Canadian food pyramid, or, whatever the equivalent is in the US, which basically the foundation, or the plate, now they've changed it, right? Which I think has improved a little bit, but most of it is diabetic causing foods, right? Like a lot of carbohydrates and breads and pastas. So even when you go to a conventional doctor and you're told to see these other practitioners to get help with chronic lifestyle issues, they're not really getting to the root cause, and they're not addressing a lot of the other pillars that are involved in your health, right? Yes, diet is an important one. It's one of the main ones, but we have to focus on all the other pillars as well.
Absolutely. And I think, root cause is what we're all about here. We're, the kombucha and milk kefir, water kefir, all of these traditional fermented beverages. And of course, they're just a gateway into all of these other traditionally fermented healthy foods. It's about replenishing the microbiome, because when we go to the root cause, and this is why, people will sometimes look at all the things kombucha can potentially help you with and think, well, how does this one beverage do so much? And it's because it's going to that root cause. It's helping to bring your body back into balance so it can heal itself naturally. And so, again, there are so many lessons I've learned from brewing kombucha. And another one that I love to share is, if you give an organism what it needs to thrive, it will. And that applies directly to human beings. And so when we start to trade out those refined sugars and refined flours and start bringing in more foundational types of foods into our body, when we bring in nutrients, and of course it's not just about the food, as you're saying, I think, this whole, so let's just sort of break down sympathetic versus parasympathetic. I think you did a great job talking about the parasympathetic and rest and digest. I think we all sort of understand what that is. But if you're in a sympathetic phase, which, from a word perspective sounds like, oh, well, things are going well, I'm sympathetic. But what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so there's two arms of your nervous system. There's the fight or flight and there's rest and digest. So fight or flight is known as sympathetic, and then rest and digest is parasympathetic. And it can only be in one of those two states at any given time. You can't be in both, right? It's like a light switch. It's either on or off. If there's, I know as a kid we've tried to put the light switch in between and it just won't, right? So
Right.
it's one either on or off, right? And so when you're in fight or flight, then various different physiological reactions occur in the body, right? So one is that your pupils dilate, so you need to receive more information, right? Think of a lion. If a lion walked into this room, I'm not a lion tamer, so it would freak me out. My instinct is going to be to get out of that room. So my eyes will dilate so I can see more information. So chronic dilation of pupils is people who need to wear sunglasses all the time. They can't go outside without sunglasses, right? Because they're in that chronic fight or flight state. There's too much sunlight or information coming into the pupils, right? So pupils dilate, respiratory rate increases, heart rate increases, blood pressure increases, blood sugar increases because we need to power our cells with blood sugar to run away from that lion. Blood flow diverts away from the abdominal organs into the hands and feet because once again, we need to run away from that lion. This is when digestion shuts down, immune function shuts down, reproduction shuts down, bladder empties, right? So a lot of things happen. So that's, our body is amazing. See respiratory rate constantly elevated. This is when people experience digestive related issues, right? Because their digestion shuts down chronically long term, right? Because that blood flow is not being prioritized to the abdominal organs, right? People who have fertility issues, right? They're in a chronic fight or flight type of state because reproduction is not important when a lion is chronically chasing you, right? So all these things happen when we're in a chronic fight or flight state. So, once again, acutely, yes, we want the fight or flight to kick in, but then we need to, recover from that fight or flight. But the problem is most of us in our modern day society are in this chronic fight or flight type of state.
Well, it's like the lion isn't there, but the emotional lions, the work lions, the family lions, right? So what happens is when we are constantly in that state, as you've already talked about, right, so much of the other functioning of our normal body shuts down. And so if you're constantly in that state, of course, your body can't repair. You can't get back to homeostasis. You can't get back to that feeling of safety. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we live in a world where we're constantly bombarded with images intended to put us into that fight or flight state. And, there was something really interesting. My husband injured himself in the pandemic, had a really intense back injury, and he started watching the news. And what he said to me is like watching the news was almost like a painkiller because they're constantly getting you into this emotional state where then your body, and so it makes sense why some people might default to constantly having the news on or things like this, especially if they're in any kind of physical or emotional pain because you want to deaden or to not feel that information. Of course, those longer term effects are so negative and so detrimental. And, so let's go to some of those foundational building blocks you were talking about, rest and digest. So how do we not just eat the right foods, of course, but how do we get our bodies back to that state of calm? What are some of the tools that you like to teach your patients or clients?
Yeah, so a couple of things there. So number one is, we talked about not just focusing on what you're eating, but how you're eating. Right? So we have 5 C's. It's chew, chill, cherish. I'm drawing a blank. Check, right? We want to check our stool. Chew, chill, cherish, check, and choose, right? Not in that particular order, but we want to choose the right foods, right? We want to make sure we're chewing the right amount of times, right? Most of us
Mhm.
scarf our food down, and that is what can potentially cause a lot of our digestive issues is how we're eating, right? So making
Right.
sure that we're slowing down, that we're chewing our food at least 20 to 30 times per bite, right? And that it's a baby food type of texture before we swallow, right? Many of us don't do that.
I
We
don't
want to,
do that.
yeah. Right? So no matter what you're eating, right? And that can make a big difference in digestion, right? Another one is cherish, right? So make sure we're taking a moment for gratitude, making sure that we're eating in a calm and relaxed state, that we're not watching the news or, on our phones while we're eating, that we're taking that pause to eat and really cherish our food. Checking, right? It's a part of digestion, right? We got to check what's coming out the other end, right? Is it loose? Is it hard? Is it not formed well, right? So checking our stool to make sure that it's properly formed, right? Is there undigested food in our stool, right? So that's an important process as well. So this is one of the key concepts that we teach our clients is really focusing on how they're eating versus of course, what they're eating, but in conjunction with that, focusing how they're eating. And then another big one is rest, right? So
Mm-hmm.
sleep is something that I think just living in North America, in our Western world, a lot of us kind of put sleep to the wayside, right? Like we rather be on our computers or watch a TV show rather than prioritize sleep. So really focusing on rest and recovery, because when we optimize our sleep, then that automatically puts us into that parasympathetic state, which is where all the healing and repair and regeneration occurs, right? So we really teach our clients proper sleep hygiene, and the Oura ring is a great way to help them make those behavioral changes because they get a score, right? And if that score is not the greatest, then most of us have even within ourselves, we have a competitive nature. So we want to improve that score, right?
Right.
So it helps to reinforce behavior changes because we figure out that when we prioritize bedtime, when we avoid blue light, when we read instead of watch TV, when we have a regular bedtime routine, we get a good sleep score, which then makes us want to, reinforce those behavior changes that got us to that good sleep score. We want to keep doing those things to get us a great sleep score every day, right?
And then you start to see the other improvements coming in. And yeah, because I think sometimes there's a thought process of like, oh, well, I need to constantly be active, or I need to constantly, right? There is such a thing as working out too much. There is such a thing as like not allowing yourself to just shut out the noise of the world, to get really present with yourself, get present with nature, because we are
Yep.
nature and it's all around us. And that's, one of the most healing, nourishing places we can really come back into homeostasis for so many reasons, and really allow ourselves to be in that state of grace almost, right? Because I think our culture has dictated this like constant busy, constant, or else you're not productive, or else you're not a valuable human being. And those messages really impair, literally and physically, impair our ability to get back into homeostasis, which is so valuable. And so you've talked about the Oura ring a couple of times, and for folks, I think that's Oura, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And so this is a wearable device that you wear all day, or only when you're sleeping. You got it on.
Yeah, so you wear it all day, and the reason why we really like it is because I know many people in the health space are concerned about EMFs, right? And so the nice thing with the Oura ring is you're able to put it in airplane mode while you're sleeping, or even during the day if you wish, so it's not constantly emitting that EMF signal. And it tracks things like your sleep. So, how many hours you're in deep sleep versus REM sleep versus how much you're awake, restfulness, how much you toss and turn throughout the night, what time you're going to bed, what time you're waking up. So what your total sleep time is versus when you go to bed, and when you wake up. If you have times where you're awake, then, it calculates your sleep efficiency. It looks at something called your readiness score, which is a composition of your sleep, of course, but your resting heart rate. your heart rate variability, which is a direct measure of the tone of your nervous system, which we spoke about earlier. Whether you're in that rest or digest state or that fight or flight state, the higher the HRV, the better. It looks at your body temperature, and then it also tracks activity. So, your step count and how active you are, right? And it kind of guides you in terms of, if you didn't get a great night's sleep, well, maybe you want to take things a little bit easy, right? You don't want to do too much activity because you want to allow your body to recover, right? If you've been overly active, then it kind of, guides you in terms of the next day. Maybe take some time to rest and recover from that really intense day of activity, right? So it helps intuitively guide you, right? And over time, you become more intuitive and you don't need to rely on the device as much, which is the ultimate goal, right? Really tapping into our own intuition, right? So,
Yeah.
We don't need to always look at the ring for how we feel. We need to internally be able to, know when we've gotten a great sleep, but especially, when you're starting out your health journey, it's really nice to have that objective data, right? I've had an Oura ring for a really long time. And, for me, I know intuitively when I've gotten a good sleep, and my Oura ring will tell me when I have or haven't, but for yourself at this stage, right? So in the beginning stages, I feel like it's an important tool for everyone to have, just to be more in touch with their body and really get those objective insights and reinforce behavior change.
So this is what I like to call closing the feedback loop, right? So when we drink kombucha or kefir or water kefir, I do recommend first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Why? So we can feel how our body is receiving these organic acids, these nutrients in a living form, these vitamins. How does this make you feel? Because I think so often, again, we have divorced how eating something then plays out. So our motto here at Kombucha Kamp is trust your gut, meaning listening to your body and what's unique to you. However, that isn't trust your taste buds.
Yes.
We know there's a lot of tricks in the food industry to trick you into eating foods that literally have zero nutritional value, but they taste good, right? Or they're low fat and, have all these different reasons why you should just eat them ad infinitum, and yet they literally cause harm to your body. And so instead of trusting our taste buds, trusting our gut is, okay, so when I eat something, do I then feel bloated? Do I have gas? Do I have brain fog? Like, how do I ultimately feel? And so what you're talking about, this Oura ring, is a way for you to close that feedback loop, to really get the data, the information, that you can start to trust your instincts. Because like you're saying, the whole point is to be able to really trust that the information we're receiving from all of our different senses really is information that we can rely on. Because we also get information from things that are ineffable, from things that are, I like to say microbes are magic, in the sense that we can't see what they're doing, and yet they're communicating, they're repairing, they're doing so many different things. Yeah, sure. If you have a question, go ahead and drop it here. We'd love to hear your question, Tootie. But that's sort of what we're trying to close that loop, so that we can do this instinctively, trusting our bodies, trusting our instincts. Because when it comes to situations where we don't know what exactly is happening, we're going to be better plugged into those senses and that way of, we talk about gut feelings, right? My personal theory is maybe it's our microbes are communicating with each other. You meet someone, you feel like, wow, we really connected, we had great energy. Well, maybe your microbes were able to engage in a conversation and they gave you information. Sometimes we come out of a situation where, like, something was off, I'm not sure what it is. And maybe in our minds, we go back and we try to create a narrative out of it. But it could just be that our gut microbiome was protecting us and saying, hey, there's something not quite right in the energy, frequency, et cetera, of whatever the situation was. So the more we can tune into that, the better we're able to put ourselves into positions of safety and to care for ourselves. And, the world is an intense place to live. And yes, we want to always be in a frequency or vibration of love. However, that simply isn't reality most of the time. And so being able to really rely on your own intuition, your own wisdom, your own senses, because you've done this work, because you have a solid foundation, is so important. So how do people work with you, Deepa, if folks are really intrigued by all these different ways that they can get back into this and they don't know where to start? How do they work with you?
Yeah, so a great place to start would be, follow us on Instagram. We have a few downloads that we offer for free. So I have a morning routine, which helps decrease, inflammation, for weight loss, more energy. So you can download that for free. And then I also have a free book that that you can download for free as well as an ebook. And if you want the physical copy, you can always just pay for shipping, and then we're able to ship you a free book of my book as well, which really covers a lot of the things that I spoke about today on a much deeper level. Really touches on a lot of the basics when it comes to nutrition and lifestyle. So both of those are available for you to access. So the morning routine is morningroutine.ca, and the free book is deepasfreebook.com. And then, of course, if you wanted to, dive deeper in terms of, improving energy or decreasing inflammation, improving metabolic health, decreasing weight, balancing hormones, then of course we have a program which can help you at a much deeper level. And really, the thing that we say about our program is it teaches skills over pills, right? So we're not going to throw a whole bunch of supplements at you. We really want to teach you skills which will then teach you to become your own best doctor, right? And not just impact you in a positive way, but really impact your whole family, right? So the skills that we teach our clients are transferable to those that are around them, right? Whether it's your friends, family, or community, you can teach them these things as well, right? So it's not just one person benefiting, it's, multiple people benefiting from that single person joining the program, right? So a lot of times, a lot of women will join our program, and next thing you know, their husbands are sleeping better, they have more energy, they've lost like 20, 30 pounds, and, they're experiencing the same benefits because they're in the journey with their spouse or partner together. So if you're interested in diving deeper, then you can always set up a discovery call with me. The links are in my bio on my Instagram bio there on my link tree.
And what's your Instagram, and how do we spell Deepa?
Yes, it's Dipa, and then last name ChauhanRPH. That's my Instagram handle.
Okay, great. Yeah. So anyone who's watching this or following this, they can just click on you and find all of your details there. And so, well, I love that this is also a family business. How do you find working with your husband and balancing having your kid, or you have one child or two?
I have one son. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how does that play out in a family way?
Yeah. So, I mean, with what we do, it's enmeshed with every aspect of our life, right? Your health is pretty much a part of your day-to-day life, right? Everything that you do. So my husband and I both work from home. I have my own office, he has his own office, and yeah, it works very well. A lot of people are like, I don't know how you work with your husband. And, we have a great relationship. We really balance each other out in terms of our personalities, which is helpful, right? We're both different in many ways, which really helps, I think, balance things out, right? He's more, without getting into the details, like we with even our clients, we have them do something called a DISC score, which outlines what aspects of your personality are the strongest. So there's 4 different personality traits. There's the D, which is the direct or dominant. There's the I, which is more of a outgoing type of personality. And there's the S, which is a steady, stable type of personality. And then there's the C, which is a person who really likes to know all the details and the research behind things. And of course, there's strengths and weaknesses, in all 4 of those, but he's a D and an I, and I'm an S and a C. So it balances.
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So, we work very well together. So yeah, it's been great. And then our son, He's at school during the day. He goes to a Waldorf school, but he can tell you about health and nutrition and lifestyle. He knows all about blue light, and he knows how to read labels, and it's part of what we teach him.
Well, that's so lovely. I mean, to have that foundational understanding at such a young age and to be able to guide and witness him on his journey as he evolves is just what a blessing and a gift. And, the way I frame it is, because I worked with my husband for many, many years, and we still work together on a variety of projects, but, that's sort of what our countries were founded on. We're small family businesses and people who came here and they worked together and they figured things out and they built together. And I think there's a real sort of blessing and gift in being able to do that. So how wonderful that you and your husband are so harmonized and aligned and able to leverage both of your skill sets to have a complete disc, if you will, in order to just have a really lovely experience there. And, I think that so many people, we're just so ready right now. What I love about right now in time is just how much more willing we are to explore those generational traumas, to dig deep into that epigenetics, to recognize, and the science has really supported that. In fact, we have a lot more control over our DNA than we realized. We thought the DNA, it's set in stone. I've got cancer in the family and I'm going to get cancer. And that simply isn't true. Because we can turn genes on and off using a lot of the modalities you're talking about. And so I think, again, there's no one ought to feel as if they have no recourse or no chance to survive. I think at any point in our journeys, we can pivot, we can make different changes. Now, it doesn't mean we're always going to look, none of us are getting out of here alive. The thing is, how are we living our lives and what kind of quality are we able to bring to our lifestyle? So, so it's exciting that you guys are out here putting this information, because I think the basics is really where we need to start. We don't learn any of this anywhere, and so many bad habits have been passed down from family to family. And this is an easy way to start to unwind a lot of that trauma. Now, of course, there's other things. There's plant medicines and different modalities that you can explore, but really getting that foundation in place is such a great jumping off point for doing all of that other work, because especially with generational trauma, it can be really emotional, it can be really challenging. You can not want to necessarily go there, and yet it is having a physiological impact in your life. And so being able to put yourself in that state of rest and digest to really heal and repair some of those things, then you can use that as a platform to go another level, higher, deeper, however you want to frame that. But really love all of the work that you and your husband are doing. Were there any other last thoughts or words you'd like to share with everybody about your work, or just really anything at all?
Yeah, just alluding to kind of what you said is, one of the things that we really talk to clients about, specifically women, is our children do as we do. They don't do as we say, right? And if we don't model what health means, or, what it embodies, we tell our children, take care of your health, make sure you prioritize your health. But if we're not doing that ourselves, how can they model that? Right? We may tell them that, but if they don't see us taking care of ourselves, if they don't see us prioritizing bedtime, if they see us eating like crap and not eating our fruits and vegetables, then, they're going to do as we do, not as we say, right? So at some point, we have to break that generational trauma of passing on, like for women, they always put others before themselves, right? We have to do that, right? It's not about being selfish, because you can't pour from an empty cup, right? You really have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and nourishing your body and prioritizing your health in order for your kids to then embody that as well, right? So we really have to model that to our future generations, right? That being healthy, it's not a destination, right? It's a day-to-day journey and a day-to-day practice, right? And they have to see you embody that day-to-day practice.
And even if you're quote unquote failing at that practice, seeing you get back into the practice, seeing how look, failure is a daily function of being a human being, right? It really is. We're never 100% successful at every
Yep.
single thing we're doing,
Yeah.
nor should we be, because
Yeah.
those are the feedback points that allow us to evolve, to grow. And yet, for whatever reason, there's this massive amount of perfectionism and shame that we feel when we don't achieve what it is we think we're looking for. I'm not entirely certain how that all got into the culture, but that said, it does exist. And so the more we're able to even get ourselves to see that failures aren't something to set you back. There's something that gives you information. It's something that helps you to grow. If you were constantly in a state of, always safe and protected, you never would grow. Like there'd be no reason, there'd be no stimuli, there'd be no, we need stress. We need both the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, yes, but we need them to operate in balance as opposed to only being in one or only being in the other.
Yeah, and how do we, I think the important thing to teach our kids is how do we face stress, right? And showing them over time, right? It doesn't happen overnight, but that resiliency, right, to stress, and that we're able to recover from it quickly. And that comes with prioritizing our health, right? In times of stress, it's like, do you stray away from your health practices, or do you embody them even more? Because that's when they're really going to serve you, right? So
right.
Really, really showing them that as well.
Yeah, and whether it's showing your children, it's showing other people in your family. And, it's so interesting, I find, when one person will start a new healthy habit in a family system, some people will literally run the other direction. They'll be like, I want nothing to do with that. And that can be really challenging. However, if we remember that we're doing this for ourselves, right? We put the mask on ourselves first, and then, right, that is going to come out and help other people, because even by our example, and so they start to notice, you're less stressed, you've lost weight, your life has seemingly improved. All of a sudden now I'm interested in what
yes,
you're doing, as opposed to being preached at or told what I'm doing is wrong. And it's challenging, because when you learn something new, you get so excited about it and you see how well it's working for yourself, and you want to go and you want to proselytize to everybody. Yep. And the problem is, and trust me, I've had this issue more than once with kombucha, or people will be like, oh, but I don't like kombucha, and they feel bad talking to me. I'm like, that's okay. Not everybody has to like everything. That's why there's not just one fermented beverage to choose from. There's so many. And so it can be, it's always focus that energy back on yourself.
Exactly.
Reinvest that into what you're doing, and that is naturally going to attract others who see what you're doing and want to participate with you.
Yeah, really just invoke that curiosity, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate your time today, Deepa. And one more time, just where people can find you, it's Dipa Chohan, I don't know the letters.
RPH. Yeah.
Yes. RPH. So hopefully folks will like and follow and download all of your free resources. You have so many great things. And of course, if you want that more personal touch, sign up for the discovery call and see if this is the right fit for you. But thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate you and your husband and just your whole mission in the world, and love being able to share you with my audience as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Bye.
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 Wow, what a great Mama Monday. Deepa had some amazing nuggets for us. I hope that this really resonated with you. You feel excited. You want to dig a little deeper into understanding parasympathetic, understanding what types of small practices you can start engaging in for yourself. Return to harmony with nature is one of my favorite things to say, and so much of what she shared is how we can do that. We are nature. Our nature is to find balance and homeostasis. As we talked about, we need to have these different inputs. However, when we're constantly in that state of all those lions attacking us, then we're going to be in a challenged place. And so kombucha, water kefir, milk kefir, Jun, all of these fermented drinks are a great place to start to help with acute digestive issues, with issues around diabetes or other things that you might be dealing with. This is something you can add instantly and have some immediate relief. And then there's so many other practices we can do that really help to bring us into balance. And hey, I'm a student of all of this myself. I am still on my journey. I am still learning for me. And well, thank you, April. Really appreciated you being here today. But just I get so inspired talking to other people and hearing about their journey and how excited they are to be elevating other people's lives. You know, we live in paradise. We live on the most beautiful planet in the solar system, as far as I can tell. I haven't visited all the others other than in my dreams. But I feel so lucky every day I get to wake up on planet Earth and show up here and be present with everyone and just really give this knowledge, this wisdom, because we're all part of this. We're all part of a cosmic family. We're all part of this amazing divine experience of what it is to be a human being. And look, I have my traumas. I have my challenges. I am not a perfect person by any stretch of the imagination. And I, like you, am seeking for more wisdom, for more ways to live a life that resonates, that is in harmony, that creates homeostasis. But again, that's not where we always want to live. We want to have both of those different types of things. So I seek adventure and I love excitement, and I'm always trying new things. So hopefully this has been an inspiring message for you today. If any of it resonated, please go ahead and share with a friend, tag us, comment. We love your interactions, and we love when you let us know how the content has landed for you. So thanks so much, everybody, for being here today, and we'll see you next time. Take the rhythm, take the energy, put it back into what your heart sings. Let your heart sing, let your soul fly. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. Until next time.